Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of FEM Talk. Here we go. Here we go. Let's do this, you guys. It is FEM Talk Tuesday. Hey, everyone. Now we're here. It is FEM Talk. It is FEM Talk Tuesday, and you know how we do. So tonight we are talking about guns, conceal, and carry. And we, as always, have a very special guest coming on this evening to cover this topic with us. So without further ado, I am going to bring in the beautiful ladies of FEM Talk. We have Shima, She Talks.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Shima She. And
Hey,
we have Melissa Mimi Girl Bossed Up. Yes,
hey,
guys.
hey.
Hey. So I just wanted to let everybody know because we showed that wonderful commercial. And I just wanted to tell everybody that yours truly will be the co-MC at the Power of We Symposium being held on April 28th in Chicago. So take a look, get your tickets. Join us in Chicago on April 28th, powerofwesymposium.com. I would love to see you all there. All right. So before we bring in our beautiful guest who is waiting patiently backstage, I hope she has some good drinks and food back there. But we are going to cover our hot topics tonight. So Mimi, take it away. Let us know what we are talking about tonight.
Well, in light of what our topic is tonight, and really what continues to happen in this wonderful country of ours, I thought a hot topic we should be discussing is the unfortunate murder of Amir Locke in Minnesota. Once again, we have police going into a home based on this what they call no knock search warrant.
Mhm.
Um, in the middle, I mean, it was first thing in the morning. The young man was still, as the body cam video has shown, was in his bed, was wrapped still in his blanket,
Mhm.
and and with his registered gun, had that in his hand because somebody's just knocked down your door and there's ruckus going on.
Mhm.
So you have a right to defend yourself, or do you? And that becomes the new question.
Mhm.
And without even asking his name, without even really speaking to him, within 10 seconds he was shot dead.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. And it was that fast.
it was that fast because um, I guess unfortunately, fortunately, there was a
Mhm.
body cam that that police now have to utilize, and it showed that it was as quick as they came in did they start shooting.
Yeah.
because quote unquote they saw a gun.
Wow.
But just because you see a gun does not mean somebody's using a gun. That's
Mhm.
number one. Number two, and depending on who is looking at the body cam, there's reports that he didn't even have his finger on the trigger. He just
Mhm.
picked up a gun. I mean, it's almost similar to the Breonna Taylor story,
Right.
where she's in her home, with her, and her, I believe it was her boyfriend,
Boyfriend.
you know, um, picked up the gun because people just banged and,
Came
busted
into
down
it.
your door and came
Yeah.
into your house.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh.
once
Yeah.
And what are
again,
you saying when you come in? I understand you have a no-knock warrant, means you can go in. But
Mhm.
as you're going in, you mean to tell me you don't say Minnesota police or whatever police it is as you're
Mhm.
busting down the door? You don't have to give them notice. You don't
Mhm.
have to knock.
but
But
even
can you
if you're
announce
saying
yourself?
police, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Say
Can you
something.
imagine when you're out, sometimes I'm sleeping and you're keeping my dogs, and they're just barking
Exactly.
crazy.
Mhm.
You are discombobulated. You're waking up out of your sleep.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
even if you're screaming within 10 seconds, police, police, but do you hear it? Do you know what that
Right.
means?
Yeah. And
And
we're gonna Yeah, I was gonna say, and we don't even want to go through this too much because we have two sides here. So we're going to get into this subject because our guest is a retired police officer, New York City police officer. So it will be interesting to hear, what her thoughts are on this particular case and even just, the issues of
Instances like
guns,
this.
right?
Yeah.
Because of some of the rules. And we're going to get through that, but I just wanted to mention that because I don't want us to go too far without having her in here because there was something that a female police officer told me from New Jersey, told me years ago. She said, listen, I'm coming home. She was a single mother and she said, I'm coming home to my son. And that really put just policing into a different perspective for me. So I want us to kind of talk about this again, Mimi, as we bring in our guests so
sure,
that we can hear the two different sides. So,
I totally agree.
yeah.
Because I think that there are two sides. I'm not against police.
Hmm.
Right.
And I believe in and I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong.
Hmm.
I believe in Black Lives Matter, but I believe in police.
Hmm.
But I
That's right.
believe there's a healthy medium that needs to come to needs to come in here.
Yeah.
In that,
That's right.
this is not a situation in the middle of the street that you can see what's unfolding.
Right.
This is somebody in their home,
Yeah.
and you have now entered their home
Yeah.
without any notice. You
Yeah.
not knock. You have busted down their door,
Yeah.
ran into their home, and out of what your fear, you don't know what's happening. That's a different situation, and I
Yeah.
think it's that needs to be looked at a little bit more. Is what requires deadly force?
Right. And what are the rules? What are the rules around it? What are
Absolutely.
the rules written, right? And then what are the unspoken rules? Because we know that there's some unspoken rules too. So I think without further ado, but before we bring in our guest, before I introduce her, I just wanted to say that as you guys can see, that we are missing one of our FEM talkers on the screen. So I want you to give some heart and love to Brandy, the
And
disconnected
prayers.
and
Mhm.
prayers for her absolutely because she lost a loved one. So we want to just make sure that we recognize that we are sending her love and prayers. We love her so much and help her family get through this time of grief. So just wanted to mention that as well before we bring our
Absolutely,
guest in. Yeah. So I just want to
absolutely.
introduce our wonderful guest tonight. I met this beautiful young lady when I moved here to Charlotte, North Carolina. I was actually outside. We parked close to her house, and she came out. Was like, "You're from New Jersey," and we were like, "Yes." And then the conversation just sparked from there, and we have gone to eat and just had some really great conversation. And I just feel a really great connection with her because she's just real. She's authentic. You don't get
Yes.
no BS with her, and I love it. So I knew she wasn't. Well, I don't know. I don't know too many people from the South, so let me not say that. But I just figured she was from
She had a
So
northern
her,
swag about
her
her.
name is Luz Ramos, and she's absolutely amazing. And as mentioned, she is a retired New York City police officer. So I can't wait to hear her perspective on this subject. So, hey, Luz.
Thank you. Hi.
Hey, Luz.
First, I want to say my condolences to your fourth party who's missing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
know, a loss is a loss. We all feel it. We all been there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You can ask me questions. I
Yeah.
just, if you would give me one moment, I would like to say is that as a New York City, as a human being, as a Hispanic, let's put it that way, right?
Mhm.
And you know, quote unquote, they refer to us as minorities, but we are the majority,
Mhm.
we're not the minorities.
Mhm.
And now in this day and age is when we're letting them know who we are,
Mhm.
That's
right?
right.
Mhm.
So now I want to share with you that although there's two perspectives, and I will play devil's advocate on both sides because I was caught in the middle. Now
Mhm.
I'm a Latina, okay, a female.
Mhm.
I'm Hispanic, you know, like I said, Hispanic,
Mhm.
and I've been when I was growing up, I've been stopped by the police
Mhm.
unjustly.
Mhm.
So I can relate to those whom have been through these type of situations where you get stopped and you can't even say like your name
Mhm.
because you're being, bullied, for lack
Yeah.
of a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, having been there,
Mhm.
being called upon to adhere to a person's problems,
Mhm.
to come and resolve your issues, then now the tables are turned.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I also had a situation, and I shared this with Tracy, that my nephew was killed. My nephew was a New York City police officer. He was one of the two first police officers who were killed in the line of duty. He was killed by the young man I believe he was from Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
shot in the head from behind while he was in his RMP
Mhm.
having lunch. So that was Officer Ramos and Lou. I'm
Mhm.
sure you guys remember back in 2014. And the
Mhm.
only reason why I bring this up is because I'm not too comfortable with talking about it. But
Mhm.
the reason why I bring it up is because then now that put me in a different mindset.
Sure. Sure.
Okay. Not
Absolutely.
only am I losing a fellow officer, but I'm losing my nephew.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Okay. So here we are. Now I'm like, how did they, because from the understanding that we got, the young man had mental health issues.
Mhm.
Okay. So he was already going out with the mindset that, oh, I'm going to kill cops. I'm going to kill cops.
Mhm.
He came all the way from PA to New York. And the two that he comes across, the first two he comes across was that RMP where my nephew was with the other fellow.
Mhm.
So of course they didn't see it coming because he came from behind. But my point being is that whatever questions you come at me
Mhm.
or that you ask me, excuse me, um, you're definitely gonna get from all angles
Yeah.
with me.
Right.
You
Great.
I love
know,
that though.
That's
Yeah.
great.
because it's not easy being again the majority,
Yeah.
um, and it's not easy being a police officer.
Mhm.
Um, I've had a situation where my nephew once came out and asked me a question of a scenario with a person whom he barricaded himself,
Mm.
and the cops came, and then he was an emotionally disturbed person. We refer that as an EDP,
Mhm.
and then he came charging at one of the cops
Mm.
with a knife, so
Mhm.
they killed him,
Mm.
right? And my nephew's attitude was like, "Oh, but this was an old man. If you can't handle him, then you shouldn't be a cop."
Mm.
But I told him, I said, what's that the expression? You can do the Monday quarterback,
Right.
because unless you're there, you don't know
That's
what
right.
actually happened.
Yeah.
So that's why, I appreciate what Mimi said, that she's not against the cops,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but she also mentioned, like, you got to find out the particulars, right?
Mhm.
So, like with the warrant, with the young man you were referring to, why did they issue the warrant?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What was going on in that household to issue the warrant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two, okay, he may have been registered, had the gun registered. So when you're registered with a firearm, you don't pick it up.
Mm.
I understand that he was scared,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, the scenario could have gone two ways. And unfortunately, he was in a position where I'm not gonna lie to you. If somebody busts into my door and I have three firearms,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep it real. Am I am I gonna point it? I'm gonna point it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
the difference between that individual, and I
Yeah.
can only go based on what I'm hearing here, is that I am experienced in how I'm going to use my firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I see automatically that
I
the
have a
individuals who busted in
mm-hmm.
have their shields out, I'm putting my gun down.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But from
It's
what you've been taught, though, and what you've lived, that's
Exactly.
automatic. Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just so many questions coming up for me right now because I'm just thinking about, what I've read in terms of like the rules in the states, right? You have the right to have a firearm in your home,
Yeah.
whether or not it's licensed or certified or not. You can use it.
Not every state.
Not every state, but most of them. Like,
You
well,
have
I just
42 states that allow you to have a firearm.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So
With New
that's
York and New Jersey not being one of them.
No, you can
no,
have it, but
you
you
can
must
in
be
your house.
licensed.
You
But
must be licensed to have it. Right.
Well,
the
here,
laws in New York are so strict
Oh.
that it's almost impossible to have it.
yeah,
That's right.
but it says that in New York City, there's no law against you having a weapon, an open weapon. Like when I looked it up. Now you can tell me if
Open
I'm wrong.
carry.
I could be wrong. Yeah,
Open carry.
it said there's
You,
no.
you can't you can't have an open carry in New York
Okay,
at
okay,
all.
because
New
This
it
York
says.
and
I can I'll give you a perfect example. I
Mhm,
retired and I
mhm,
had to fill out a booklet.
okay.
And I'm not gonna lie, a booklet,
Uh huh.
because I lived in Yonkers when
Mhm.
I retired. I grew up in Brooklyn, but I
Mhm.
lived in Yonkers, and because I lived in Yonkers, I couldn't use my, because when you leave the department, they issue you a automatic license,
Mhm.
right,
Okay.
to
Mhm.
carry your gun
Mhm.
within the 5 boroughs,
Mhm.
because
mm,
that's the city limits.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
because I was in Yonkers, I had to fill out that booklet and have a full investigation on me
Mhm.
before they allowed me to have a license to
Wow.
carry in Yonkers.
it's
Wow.
one. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
have
now,
a
how
good
did you? Oops. Go ahead, Mimi.
I was gonna say I have a good friend who also it took him months to get a license for a gun.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
it's actually more than months. I think it took
I
him
was
over
just gonna
a
say
year.
it must have been about a year to two
Yeah,
years
yeah, it took him
because
over a
they take
year.
forever.
Because he had to take classes and he had to
Mhm.
register, background
Mhm.
check. I mean, it went on and on and on.
Mhm.
And he was getting it for security purposes, related to a job function. So it was legitimate why he was getting, in a sense of he just didn't want a license. He had a reason
Mhm.
to get the license, but it took him
Right.
over a year, if
Mhm.
not two. But it took a long time to get it.
Wow.
And with knowing that, New York, New Jersey, we have some of the hardest laws
Mhm.
against you having a gun,
Mhm.
whereas other states, and you look at the issues going on in New York and places in New Jersey, and I don't know if conceal and carry
Mhm.
is bad or good.
Mhm.
You have like New York where gun violence is at its height. with numbers higher than they've ever been in years. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I happen to think that that also plays a lot with politics in the perspective of, if you don't give your cops respect, no one's going to respect them. So, hence that being said, you had the two officers whom were recently killed in Harlem, right?
Yep.
They were ambushed. They
Yep.
were ambushed, and they didn't have they had no chance to even try to defend themselves.
That's
So I
right.
say that to say that if someone can open fire on two cops like that, that sends a whole message
A
to the whole
message. Yes,
state,
it does.
Yeah.
to the
Right.
whole U.S. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
we don't
It does.
respect cops, so we could take them out like nothing.
Right.
And
And
then
I
They're
think
I
not
it's
the
part
only
think that
two.
that goes back to what I was saying earlier about what my friend was saying. Like, I'm going to go home, because
I
she was
wanted
saying,
to
I'm going to go home to my son.
I wanted to touch on that
Yeah, because when you
because
feel like there's disrespect of the police officers, and now you have this instance where, what Mimi was talking about, Amir Locke, and they're going in and they're bum rushing, but however, he has a
Yes,
firearm in
indeed.
his hand, and if the cops feel like, okay, he could open fire at any moment,
Right.
what do? We're going to save ourselves. We want to go home. Like, everybody wants to stay alive, technically,
Mhm.
right? So this young man doesn't know, and I'm not saying there shouldn't be protocol, because there should be protocol when the cops are
Right.
busting down your door,
Mhm.
right? Because
but there is.
yeah, okay.
There is. Now,
Talk about that. Talk about that.
Yeah.
so I'll give you a perfect example. When
Mhm.
I was in the Bronx,
Mhm.
they really didn't have too many female officers whom that they didn't have a female officer on the team, the warrants team.
Mhm.
So the sergeant took such a liking to my work ethic that he would go and ask, if I was working, he would go and ask, listen, can I use Luz for the night?
Mhm.
And he knew I would jump on it because I was open to doing anything on the job.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so he would take me, and when we would go in, yes,
Mhm.
you bust the door down because you have that warrant.
Mhm.
Right.
You can go in without saying, police are here, because that's the
Mhm.
purpose of the warrant.
Mhm.
But
Right.
you go in, but once you're inside, of course you're gonna just you have to disclose whom you are.
Mhm.
So
Right.
back to the scenario with the young man that you were referring to, Mimi. Um, did they say whom they were? You
Mhm.
understand? Once they got
That's the
inside,
question.
Mhm.
only the
Mhm.
body cam is going to tell you that.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we
Right.
can
Right.
go back and forth on what half the story is, and still have that in your head, like, what actually happened. Of course,
Mhm.
unfortunately, um, we may never get to see the actual video, unless this goes on the news, like other situations,
Right.
and then we'll be like, oh, wait a minute, but the cops did say who they were. At that point, he should have dropped the gun. So that's why I didn't want to say, oh, he shouldn't have had the gun in his hand, because we don't know how the cops addressed the situation.
Yeah.
Right.
You
And
know,
we don't know what he
I'm
was
not
thinking.
gonna lie to you. I've worked with individuals, and I think I shared this with Tracy. I worked with an individual. The fellow was Dominican. We had a domestic violence situation,
Mhm.
okay, and the couple was Dominican, and so I don't want to stereotype, but we're gonna call it what it is, right?
Mhm.
So typically Latino men have this macho attitude,
Mhm.
like they run the
Mhm.
show, is what they say, not what the lady says in the house.
Mhm.
And so when we get there, she's so scared to say anything to me. So
Mhm.
I tell my partner, I says, go with him, her husband, and
Mhm.
we separate them to,
Mhm.
to get the situation.
Mhm.
Right.
And so I'm speaking to her, and she's telling me, yeah, he hits me, and I'm tired of it, blah, blah, blah. And so then my partner comes, and he starts to re-victimize her,
Mm.
because he's Dominican, and they stand together. So
Mhm.
of course so he picks up on, the husband's attitude, and says, oh yeah, she'll get over it, whatever. He tells the woman in front of me, oh, just, we'll send him to take a walk, and you go relax or whatever, and when he
Mhm.
comes back, everything will be back to normal. So I looked at him, and I was the senior officer on the scene. And I looked at him, and I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Go with him over there. Let me handle this." And I gave her the pep talk, and I told her, I said, "Listen, nothing's going to happen to you, but I do have to take a report.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're telling me that he hit you, I'm locking him up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with it, you know?"
Right.
But ended up being that he didn't get locked up. And because she was so scared, and the fact that my partner re-victimized her
Yeah.
didn't help the situation.
Yeah.
So I'm sharing this with you to let you gain a different perspective of those of us whom officers who have to work with the bad apples.
Yeah.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I say this to say that when we got outside back in the car, I took that report.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I gave her the number to call, and if anything, she can, call them up. They'll come back, they'll pick them up, and that's that.
Yeah.
But when I got in that car, I told them, this will be the first and the last time you pull some nonsense like that if you're working with me.
Yeah.
And if I can help it, I'm gonna make sure I don't ever work with you again.
Yeah. Wow.
And I told my boss, so he never put us together again. But you gotta also remember that there's cultural ways that we can't control. Like you have certain cultures that women have to walk 4 or 5 steps behind the man.
That's right.
So when we have situations like that, if I come on the scene, that man will refuse to speak to me if he's of that type of culture.
Yeah.
So hence I says, when we do training, they give us what they call behavioral science to learn the different cultures of people and ways and how to approach the situation according without disrespecting their cultural ways.
Right.
So and it's not to take you off the topic, it's just to give you an understanding of how when we come to a scene, it could be anything that could keep us from doing our job the right way.
No, and that's so important because that's the at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about treatment that's not equal. We're talking about treatment that we're not treated the same way as someone else. We're not treated because of the color of our skin, because of what they see. And, like you talk about, the behavioral science. It's clear that there's bias out there. It's clear, I can't tell you how many times my husband, my nephews were stopped in Bergen County, New Jersey, in towns. I can't tell you. I remember the time I was stopped in Bergen County, New Jersey, and somebody was, and when I crossed over the town, it was like, "What are you doing here? Where are you going?" Right. So there is a very serious, because then the fear comes in. Are you quicker to kill to raise your gun at me as opposed to another person? And that's the problem. And even when you talk about conceal and carry and the right to have a gun in other states, does that make you safer? Does that make you more protected? Is that bringing you a level, or is that just is that just a shootout now?
Yeah.
Is that just another opportunity for you to get killed?
Unfortunately, that's where we're at.
Yeah, and I think that's my fear is, I'm in a state now that I could go get a gun, but what is that going to do for me?
I was going to say that's the fear.
Well, when you think about it, so I'm gonna play devil. I'm sorry, Shima, you go ahead first before I was
just gonna say it makes you think. You have to think of two sides. You do that anyway, but the two sides you think of in that case is, I do want to protect my home and my family from intruders or looters, robbers, whoever. Yeah. But I'm also concerned with what is on that off chance that the person who comes in is a policeman or someone. Now, where does that put me? Do I want to be able to have a gun? Do I want to be able to pull a gun? And am I going to know the difference? I mean, maybe before you never had to think about it, but now, because of how we, the times we live in and the things we're seeing, that is the weighing options. Those add to the weighing options.
Yeah. They've always said when I came on the job is it takes a certain kind of person to be a police officer.
Mhm.
Not everyone who's on the job should be.
Mhm.
That we know this, right? So now, but the thing is that getting back to Shima, do you really want to have a gun? If it's something that you're comfortable with, and you educate yourself and you go and you learn how to properly handle it,
Yeah.
then hey, I implore you to do so.
Yeah.
However, it's not for everybody, because I'm gonna tell you right now, when I was in the street, I've had to pull out my gun,
Yeah.
and it was not a comfortable situation.
Yeah.
And I'm trained in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, literally had to pull my gun out because I was in a situation where it was either that person or me. And I'm gonna be honest with you, as scared as I was, because I was scared,
Yeah.
that person was gone.
Yeah. And
Because
these,
like going back to what Tracy said, I'm a single mom with 2 kids, and I was going home.
that's right. That's
You know,
right.
and that's exactly the argument that I had with my nephew
Yeah.
in regards to, because his attitude is like, well, if you can't handle an old man or whatever the case may be, you don't know what. First of all, a lot of people don't seem to understand that when you have when you're emotionally disturbed, the strength is almost like 10 times
That's right.
the average person.
Yeah.
So you're not dealing with a typical individual who's of sound mind, who's just pissed off. You're dealing with a person who's got emotional problems, whose temperament and strength goes up, God knows how high,
Yeah.
and so people don't, if unless you educate yourself with this, or unless someone tells you or educates you in this,
Yeah.
you won't know what the cop is really dealing with.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
And this
when you
is a
start
perfect.
thinking about it, do you want to go home to your family? Of course.
Yeah, this is a perfect segue because I just I looked up information on what questions you need to ask yourself in order to, when you're deciding if you want to conceal and carry, right? So the first thing they said was, of course, know the laws in the state that you're in, right? But it said, are you skilled enough, right, to make this decision? And some states require you to be, right? So it may not even be a choice, but some states don't, right? So are you skilled enough? Do you have enough power to shoot that weapon? And then it says,
Yeah.
this was the key, and this is what you were saying, Luz. What are you really willing to do?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because a couple of seconds can make a world of difference,
That's
right?
right.
And you can shoot this gun and regret it for life, right?
There you go.
What are you
There you
really
go.
willing to do? And then the other one was, what's your line in the sand is what they said, right?
Right.
When
Right.
will you pull out your weapon and when won't you pull out your weapon, right? If you even have a line in the sand. So, and how do they even examine that when people are going to get their certifications or their license to carry and conceal? Like what is the rule? What are the rules? And I know every state is different, but what are they looking at to say like
Right.
this person is fit enough to carry a gun and this one is not? Because we
Well,
have
they do a full background check.
where people
If you
learn.
have any domestic violence situations,
Mhm.
if you have, if you've been arrested,
Yeah.
a lot of things like that to rule out whether or not you should or shouldn't have one.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
They're pretty extensive,
Mhm.
but with the states that have lighter, how can I say this? They're more lenient on giving you the license. Of
Mhm.
course, they're not going to go to, even if they go to that extent, they may just turn around and say, "Oh, you know what? The heck, just go ahead." I mean,
Yeah.
here in North Carolina, you could go down to the range and just buy a gun and walk out like if it's a candy bar.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being real. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Right.
are you kidding me? You know?
Right. I mean, so many like I remember the unfortunate school shooting in Connecticut. The young man, he just went and got a gun. I mean, there was, I mean, although he had issues, wasn't something that's documented. A lot of people with issues, they're not documenting a lot of people's issues, especially if you're a child. Those records are sealed, so you don't. So you could do a background check all you want. And I'm saying a child, you could turn 18, you will not know that child has emotional
issues. That's right.
That's right. So even the background checks are light at best. I mean, obviously for somebody with a record that is a documented mental health issue, you'll find that. But the average person, you're just not going to find that on there.
Yeah.
So even those things, it's like, to me, to your point, that 1 second, as Tracy mentioned, can change your whole life, and it's changing many people's lives these days.
That's right.
People are just shooting like it's out of control. I believe a lot of that comes from the false appearance of guns on TV and in movies. And now, talk about all the video games. I think people are using guns.
Yes.
Kinds of, and I think video games has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely. And I agree with you.
If it's, I won't even name the games.
Right.
And I watched them. I mean, part of the game, one of the
they
games,
glorify it.
Machine gun.
Yes.
Right, you buy it's fake, but you're buying a machine gun, so you're going at it, on
if it gives you that mindset, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Once you get the mindset, it
doesn't matter.
And there are games that make it acceptable to shoot the police. Right. There are games that do that. So they glorify it. So then what are you putting into the psyche of these children? Right.
Right. And they get older, and now it becomes, it's a false sense of you don't understand what life means.
Right.
For you to take out a gun and start shooting it all over the place, there was a road rage. The guy who just started shooting, I don't know if you saw that videotape last week. He's just shooting, in his car. And I'm like, this notion that you're not going to hit somebody and kill somebody is gone from people.
Well, look at
we're desensitized
to murder. Recall about the little boy, the Caucasian kid, whom took a gun to school, and when they addressed the mother was like, told the kid, "Oh, just next time, make sure you don't get in trouble."
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is the world we live in.
I thought I taught you better. You're not supposed to get caught.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
It wasn't, but that was very similar to the
But they arrested them.
Oh my gosh, there was a shooting a couple of months ago with a young man. The same thing, and the parents, the shooting in school, and the parents, the principal bought. That's the same person we're talking about, right? And
the parents are now being charged.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because the principal told them something's wrong, and and they just turned a blind eye to it. So I think we have become desensitized to murder. We have become desensitized to the power of a gun.
Yeah.
We do not believe that there's a lack of belief that there's a serious concern with you killing somebody.
Yeah.
Until it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Listen, we're desensitized to it, right? Because it happens so much that people are desensitized. I can remember
it takes a lot for someone to pull that trigger.
Yeah. Well,
it's not easy.
No.
I mean, when I say pull the trigger, I mean pull the trigger and kill somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But there's so many people who are already to the point that when you say it takes a lot, they're already at that point.
Yes,
they probably already thought it. I mean, because now we're seeing the fruition. You're just constantly pulling the trigger. You don't care. You have no regard for life.
Well, again, that's
your own life. So by that point,
for life, right?
You're just shooting. You just, and like you said, and I know, I mean, realistically, we want people to get the training and the certification, but when you look and because they're not getting there the right way, look at how they're using it. You made the example, Mimi, about the guy, or was it Luz? The guy in the car shooting. He thought he saw a gun next to him. So he wildly shoots in the car that he's in. No regard for his own life. Because what were you going to do? What was shooting going to do for you? In that manner? No control, no pullover, nothing. The other guy in New York just the other day, a little young kid shooting wildly on the street and hit the bus. But just watching them, I guess I get engrossed in what I'm seeing and how they're doing it, because there's no there's no control. There's no power. Like you said, you need to be able to handle this device. That's not there.
Yeah.
The majority of the people not trying to control the device, just want to shoot.
Just want to shoot.
I have my two kids. One is 34 and the other one's 26. And the 26-year-old, he's a MP in the National Guard, and he just filed to try to become a police officer. And I'm going to be honest with you. I told him don't. I told him no. And, unfortunately, his attitude was like, Mom, you're being hypocritical. You did it, And I get where he's coming from, but I had to explain to him that I'm not coming to you as a retired officer. I'm coming to you as a mother. I'm a mother first.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
because I know what he's going to be subject to. I know, and I try to explain it to him, but his mentality is like, oh, I dealt with this, that, and the other in the Guard. It's two different entities.
Yeah.
Police officers don't get respect. Armed forces get respect. The omnipresence from a serviceman versus a police officer. I think we can all come to the consensus that we'll give that service person a lot more respect.
Think about that. Think about
what I'm saying?
Psychologically, they're fighting war, even though it's war on the streets.
Yes,
it's war on the streets. But I think people think about it because it's a war. They're saving our whole country, right? They don't think about
so our police officers.
Yeah, they don't think about
that's
the
the disconnect.
on our
That's
streets.
the disconnect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
really quickly, ladies, we're going to pin this because Mimi has a very good segment that she is going to do. So we're going to do a commercial. Let Mimi do her segment, come back, and then we'll finish off this conversation. So let's do it, you guys. Here we go. We are going to get our segment going. All right, Mimi, we'll see you in a few.
Hi, everyone. I'm in my living room chilling. And one of the things I wanted to share this in terms of being a girl boss, one of the biggest things that I do as girl boss is I'm a wife. And I'm a wife of 31 and a half years. We're about to be 32 years this year. And with it being February and just around the corner of Valentine's Day, I thought it'd be interesting and helpful to share some good things about relationships. Number one of the things that I've learned in a relationship is that it's so important to communicate at all times. Don't not communicate. Always find a time and a place to talk. Now, find a time, meaning pick the right time, and find a place, pick the right place, so that you can get communication going in your relationship. Oftentimes I hear couples saying, he's not talking to me, she's not talking to me. And when we discover things, it's like, well, when are y'all trying to talk? How are you trying to talk to each other? So communication is just a really, really important component of really having a good relationship. Number two, one of the things that my husband and I have learned to do is sweat the small stuff. And I know you always hear, don't sweat the small stuff. Well, no, 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 no. Because think about it. What do you really fight about in relationships? Laundry, who didn't pick up food, the dinner, all kinds of little things. And by the time you keep on fighting over the little things, when a really big thing happens, it's all over. Sweat the small stuff. Learn how to communicate with the small things that you go through. Learn how to have problem resolution with the small things. Okay, devise who's going to do the laundry, who's going to cook tonight, who's going to pick up the groceries, all those kind of things. If you can start communicating on those little issues, trust me, when the big issues come, things are better. Last but not least, what I'll share tonight is stay in your role. If you're the wife, be the wife. If you're the husband, be the husband. Don't try to put on his shoes and don't try to put on her stilettos. Be who you are. And when you accept your role in the relationship, watch, they'll accept theirs too. That's all I have tonight. So, with Valentine's Day coming up, take those little tips on how to get your relationships going better. Okay?
Hey everyone, and we are back. It is FEM Talk, and we are talking about guns, conceal and carry with our special guest, Luz Ramos. So we're going to get back into this topic, this great topic, as always. Here we go. Hello, ladies. And shameless plug. If you want to hear more about those good tips for love and marriage, meet Mimi and her wonderful husband, Lamont Simmons, the Simmons couple. They are my favorite couple, you guys. So meet them on the Whole Living Show on Wednesday, February 16th at 10 a.m. All right. So I had to put that shameless plug in there. So, you guys, we are coming back to this conversation.
Shameless plugs here at FEM Talk.
That's right. We are talking about conceal and carry, and we have about maybe 10 minutes to close out the show. So I want you guys to just think about, what we've been discussing and how you want to kind of wrap this all up. What do you want to tell people about, one, having a gun, especially since we mentioned some of the things that we mentioned before we went to break in terms of, can you actually really handle having a gun? Will you be able to handle the consequences, or just, what's going to happen? Right? Will you? She was pointing to her head here.
Well, and
the psychological effects that are going to happen after you pull the trigger, can you deal with that?
Yeah,
that's right.
And that's what they don't teach you. And I'm sure, Luz, you probably agree with that. Is, I think everybody says, oh, I go, I've heard a lot of friends say, oh, I'm going to the gun range. I'm learning how to shoot. I'm learning how to handle the gun, all these kind of things. But I don't think what we're ready for is what happens after the gun goes off.
Yeah.
Who there's no, that you don't know who it's going to hit, how it's going to hit them. You don't even know if you're going to hit you if it's for the right reason. Talk about somebody coming into your home. And I was talking to, again, a friend of mine, and they had a situation in the house, and unexpectedly things went awry in the house, and it wasn't a ruckus, but there was some heightened fear going on. And the thought came, I could have grabbed my gun and I could have, shot, because I didn't know where they was coming from. And he said, and he was like, well, I'm glad I didn't, because it ended up not being anything. They left peacefully. But what if he would have grabbed the gun, came out, and then something happened? To your point, we got to really think. And I know a lot of this is being spurred because of Black Lives Matter, because of what we're seeing in the, like this incident with Amir Locke. That's part of it. Breonna Taylor. I know the issues we're experiencing in this country is causing us to want to defend ourselves.
Right.
But we need to really take a step back.
Yeah.
And really be more thoughtful. What are we really solving by arming ourselves in our homes with guns?
Yeah.
To your point, and the same thing that Luz said earlier, even if everything aligns, I pulled my gun because I was afraid and it was warranted. And I shot for my safety and my life and it was warranted. And I hit the way I was supposed to hit. And whether they died or lived, but I hit the way everything went the way it was supposed to go for my safety. There is still going to be that residual that says, depending on you and the person you are,
absolutely,
I shot a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I killed a person.
That's why I say it takes a lot for you to.
It does.
Yeah.
It takes a lot for a person to say, okay, I can do this. I'm going to shoot this person.
But I'm going to say this though, when you think about even what you were saying before we went to break, Luz, where you talked about talking to your son about considering that decision because you're coming from a mother's perspective. So when you think about, especially, being a single mom, when you think about, and I don't have a gun, right? But at the same time, when I think about having to protect my child, I don't know I don't know how I would feel if I shot someone, because there will be some feelings that come after that. However, if it means that I'm going to protect my son, I will deal with that feeling.
That's right.
I'm going to protect my son. So, you have to weigh it from those perspectives, right? And I'm not saying go around carrying a gun, going willy-nilly.
Right.
I'm saying if somebody, if they decide to beat down your door, and I'm here with my child.
Yourself. You need to know yourself. Like you just said, I'm going to do this for my son. Know yourself.
Let me give you a quick, it was a freak situation. I lived in the Bronx. I was still on the job. It was in the summer, and my nephew decided to come and visit me unannounced. Not that it was a problem, right? So he came with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's daughter. She must have been about 15 years old. And we're all sitting in the living room. That particular day, I had gone to the range. So I had my firearm at home. Typically, I left my firearm, most people probably wouldn't agree, but I always left my firearm at work. And so I went. So we're sitting down and everybody's, joking around, so forth. The young lady says, I want my charger. I'm going to go to the car and get my charger. So he says, okay, no problem. So he gives her the keys. When she's coming back, there's a young man walking behind her. And he's pushing his way into the apartment, right? Because I lived on the first floor of a private house. So she walks in, and here comes this guy. He's much bigger than her, with one shoe off, because now you see the cop in me kicked in. So I see he has one shoe off. The mucus in his nose is coming all down. He's all sweaty, clammy. I got up. I went and I got my gun, and I came back, and I'm pointing the gun, and I'm telling my nephew's girlfriend, take the kids and go into the back room. And my nephew's standing up, and he's like telling the guy, you picked the wrong house, brother, because my aunt's a cop, right? So now it's funny, but the truth of the matter is that he wanted to get inside my house to hide because there was a police chase after him. What are the chances that he ends up in my house, right? So, and I have my gun. But instantaneously, I went and I grabbed my gun and I pointed it. Long story short, the cops came rolled up. Because my nephew said what he said, the kid ran out and he ran to the back of the house to try to jump the fence. So when the two officers who were on foot pursuit came, I turned around and I told them, I showed them my ID. I had my gun, down, of course, pointed down, because
Right.
who knows what they would have done to me. I
Right.
says, I'm Officer so-and-so from such and such precinct. My tax number is such and such. That's usually the first thing we have to disclose. Because once you say a tax number, they know you're a cop. And they turned around and I said, I'm telling them, go around the back, I got the front. So sure enough, they went to the back and they apprehended the young man. But that could have gone in so many different ways. That's my point.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he had a gun. I didn't know what he was going to do. He could have taken that little girl and held her as a hostage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I dealt with it as a civilian and I dealt with it as a cop.
Yeah.
So I definitely comprehend both ends 150%. I really do.
But thank God, you were a level-headed person, right? As a police officer, just as a woman protecting her home, even and her family, to not just shoot first, right?
But you see, that goes back to the fact that Tracy, not everyone is meant to be a police officer.
Yeah.
They could go through all types of they could go through all types of psychological investigations, whatever. But at the end of the day, there was someone who made a comment while we've been speaking, because they keep popping up. So I'm reading some of them. And someone made a comment and said something to the fact that there are a lot of mental health individuals who have not been diagnosed. And that is so accurate. So accurate. Because I tell you, I have some experience dealing with those type of people. So when I come across a certain individual, I'm looking at them and I'm already picking up, okay, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's pacing.
Right.
Something's up with this guy. Or female, because it goes both ways. And, you'll laugh at this because my son, he's about 5'11", almost 6 feet. And we were walking in Manhattan in Washington Heights. And I see a gentleman sitting on the homeless guy. And again, we call them EDPs. And he's, ranting and carrying on. So, of course, most of us will be like, let's cross the street, right? So we're passing by and I take my son. He's on the inside, closer to the person. And I take my son and I push him to the outside. And I told him, come over here. He's like, Mom, really? I am like 20-some years old. I think I can handle myself. But I say that to say that not only does the mother instinct kick in, but the fact that I was a cop, unfortunately. In that perspective.
Yeah. And I remember working in New York City. I used to see some doozies working in New York City, but working in New York City on my way to Penn Station, right at the stairs, there was I think he was mentally ill as well, but he just went erratic with a knife. And the police had to rush him to detain him because there were so many people. Of course, everybody's going, it was rush hour. Everybody's trying to get into Penn Station and he's waving the knife erratically, so anybody could have got hurt. So luckily for him, they did not shoot first, right? And they couldn't really in that situation because there were so many people around, but they rushed him, to get him to the ground, to get the knife out of his hand. They handled it really well. I have to be honest. They really handled it well. But that could have gone bad. It could have gone really bad.
Absolutely.
Because he was really erratic.
Especially with, which you're probably not aware, but the most deadliest weapon is a knife. And you know why? Because that knife can be tossed. And it can get you in the heart and the stomach and the neck and anywhere and instantly kill you. And that's part of the reason why when it comes to dealing with knives, that's probably one of the worst ones. But it is a car stop, a knife, and a domestic violence call. Those three right there are probably the top notch for putting your life more at danger. Which is part of the reason why officers react a certain way. Those are going to be, remember, a lot of people seem to forget we're human. We're human. So we, just like the average person, we may react out of nervousness,
Yeah.
Right.
out of fear, or just simple, I'm going home tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
Exactly. I know
Absolutely.
we're about to
So
end.
yeah.
I just wanted to just thank you, Luz, and thank you for your
thank you for
service.
having me.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you know, I pray we do learn to give so much more respect to our police officers,
Mm-hmm.
because they're all not. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
believe that the 2% is the problem and not
Mm-hmm.
the 98.
Mm-hmm.
So, to you and to all the servicemen out there, you know, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Thank you for coming
This
on,
was
Lou.
awesome.
Don't go anywhere. Stay in the green room so we can talk to you a little bit after. But thank you, everybody out there, for joining Fem Talk. We love you as usual. Join us next week here, Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m. here on
Thank
Facebook
you.
or on E360 TV on Amazon Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, Android TV, and Apple TV. We love you guys. Thank you for all of the interaction. Suave, Feliza, Lee Diamond,
Great.
all. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.